Welcome to the HEARTS Entwined podcast. In this podcast, we'll be having discussions around the secrets which attract lasting, healthy, fulfilling relationships, creating a healthy mindset, and what women should know and understand about men. Introducing your host, Lyn Smith, the Queen of Hearts, relationship expert, trainer, speaker, and best-selling author of the Cupid's Bow technique. Lyn's mission is to have a positive impact in reducing divorce, domestic violence, and suicide.
Welcome to the Hearts Entwined podcast. And today, listeners, I'm excited to introduce Sarah Louise Ryan, who is an old friend of mine, actually, who I've known for quite a few years. And what she's an expert in is dating and relationships. So good morning, Sarah.
Hello and good morning, Queen of Hearts. How are you?
I'm absolutely ecstatic and very excited to be speaking to you this morning, Sarah.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be on the show, especially after tuning in to last week's episode this morning when I was getting ready. So I'm delighted to be here. So thanks for having me.
It's brilliant. All right, so let's get stuck in. Today, I think our listeners have got some great words of wisdom that are going to be shared by ourselves and you especially around navigating modern dating.
Oh, the minefield of modern dating. Yes, absolutely. I thought it would be a really good topic to delve into because as you and I were cheekily chatting before we jumped on the podcast, it's such a minefield no matter what age you are today. When you're looking for love, everybody has the same tools to navigate the search for a partner. And as the world becomes more intricate in the digital space and we navigate, online platforms and apps as well as different websites and all of that jazz, I think somewhere along the line, we get, even though we're so connected online, we get really disconnected with human beings that are also out there looking for love. So it's a subject that I'm massively passionate about because I just love making real life connections and bringing single professionals together in whatever capacity that might be, because, you can never really replace how you gauge someone's demeanor, their personality, their sense of humor in real life, and everything online seems a bit somewhat kind of premeditated because it's not so much in real life. So I think a lot of pseudo relationships are created in this online space where we invest time and energy and also financial resources too. But actually, it means that a lot of the time singles are sat there in their PJs, drinking a cup of tea or a glass of wine and not actually getting out there and meeting like-minded singles. So yes, in a nutshell, I'm massively passionate about modern dating and how to navigate it. So thanks for having me.
Brilliant. I love what you're doing, Sarah, because like you say, it isn't, I suppose it is in one sense, it's a bit of a dual-edged sword because on the one side of the coin, you've got the disengagement, I suppose, the virtual type dating that we're sort of now exposed to in the modern world, the world of online and using screens for everything. And then you've got the other side of the coin, the old-fashioned, just let's socialise and meet in the flesh and have the opportunity not only to meet just one person, but many, and actually have that real experience, which I absolutely 100% support you on this.
And do you know what? Just as you were talking then, I was thinking that while it's, the old-fashioned way of meeting when you get together at a singles event or a dinner or a weekend or whatever it is that I'm throwing or different companies in the dating industry are putting on out there to connect singles, actually it's deemed to be bolder than ever before to put yourself out there in real life because it's the complete opposite of what is deemed to be the norm, because the norm is connecting in this digital space where you can take your time to create a funny joke. If you, I mean, I'm not saying that people are not naturally funny, but to like Google something or check something out and come back in your own time, in your own space, and build a connection or lose a connection and ghost someone, or if someone doesn't have the same intentions as someone else, it's a lot of dating dancing online. And I think in real life, your gut and energetically speaking, you can really make quick, fire decisions on whether you connect with someone or not. And I mean, what happened to how fun dating used to be, with the experiences and the connection of learning new things about yourself, about the person you're meeting, or perhaps doing something in general where you can make a memory rather than just you're never gonna remember the people that you swiped left on or the profiles that you didn't like, are you? But if you went on a date and it wasn't your forever love, there's every chance that you'll remember that event or that date if you had a great experience too. So I see it as people investing energy and time, but you can't get that time back, So a lot of things come out of online dating. So I operate as a coach in the dating industry. 60% of my time is coaching, and different things come up for clients of mine and for people that come to me with questions through my business love lessons, and they're asking me about fear of rejection. Why did that person not continue chatting to me online? Starting dating people offline, and the scarcity of things not working out. So all of these limiting beliefs and stories around dating are coming up now more than ever before. So that is why I am constantly, probably spend about 16 hours a day talking about modern dating, but I just think it's so necessary that we talk about giving people the tools to be more confident to navigate the path to partnering.
Absolutely, 100% agree. So what do you feel are maybe the top, for you in your experience with your clients that you're attracting, are the main fears, worries or problems?
The main fears and worries, problems. One is the scarcity that things won't work out. So there are different stages of that. One is connecting with someone, let's say online, who they haven't yet met, but they've created in their mind this, like I said earlier, pseudo relationship, because they think, gosh, this is the funniest person, I'm really feeling a connection, we've got loads to talk about, I can't wait to meet them. And, really boosting an image of somebody who is, in fact, a stranger who they've never been in the presence or had even a telephone call with. And then all of a sudden being frightened and fearful that they'll go on a date and things won't work out. Or they go on a first date and they're thinking, oh gosh, what if they don't like me? What if this doesn't progress? Rather than the idea of stepping into one's own power when it comes to partnering and thinking, how do I feel on this date? How does this person make me feel? Do they make me feel comfortable? Do I feel more confident around them? Have they put my first date nerves at ease? And often I'm hearing and seeing the passing over of power around what one might want in a relationship, and also not seeing the first date or the second date as a hi, let's get to know each other and see how we feel, but imagining the end goal, is this my soulmate, life partner, the person I'd like to marry? And I see people jumping the gun, so to speak, from the get-go, from that swipe all the way to the first or second date, and then all of a sudden creating I hear a lot about generalized anxiety around dating. And recently, one of the most driven in terms of traffic and listenership is a conversation that I held on air with a cognitive behavioral therapist around anxiety in dating. And that's because it's unfortunately more common today than it ever has been. I mean, remember those days that you used to go down the pub and have a glass of wine or a beer, and then you get to chatting to someone, and organically that would turn into a date or a creation of a friendship that would then, in a low pressure environment, progress into something more, perhaps romantically. It feels to me like those days are gone, and so I do my best to bring them back, in a sense of creating different events, experiences, weekenders, for people to connect over fun and values and interests, more over that end goal of, I want to fill a void of loneliness, I want to find companionship, and I just need someone to fill that. They connect over what's right in front of them at that present moment. Am I making any sense? Am I just talking at you, Lyn?
No, it makes perfect sense. And I resonate with it so much, because this is also the same, problems and concerns that I hear myself. And I think it's quite sad, actually, that, and unfortunately, I think it's especially true of women that they tend to romanticize and fantasize more, I would say, my experience, than men, about fast forwarding, where this relationship is going before they've had a chance to even get to know this person that they're speaking to.
You know what? You're absolutely right. And a lot of the work that I do with clients, and I guess you're singing from the same hymn sheet as me, and you really understand, the same kind of questions and problems and intricacies that are coming up, is that people don't prepare for partnering. And what I mean by that is they don't sit down and figure out what their values are. They're constantly thinking about what they want from somebody else to bring to the table. But more often than not, I find that people haven't done the work themselves to think, what am I going to bring to the table? What are my values? How does that show itself up in a relationship? And how can I navigate modern dating, sieving out those people who are not quite a good fit with my values, and how can I attract more of those that are? And so I think by doing the work, preparing to partner in a way where you're thinking about, okay, what does a good relationship look like to me? How do I communicate love? How do I feel when I'm in a relationship? Not, how it's not just about someone coming in and, you feeling the most complete version. You all already have to feel 110% happy, 110% content and complete. Because the one thing about contentment is that's when, you're neither super duper beyond like excitement and happy, you're not super duper feeling, down and low. You're in the middle where life is just feeling in flow and as it should be. And when you're content with all the different slices of your cake in life, and you feel like that cake is whole and you're not missing any slices, so to speak, that's the right time to figure out who it is that you want to attract. If you feel like any of the slices of that cake are missing, you're not in a place to prepare to partner, because you're kind of not feeling 110% you. You're feeling somewhat like something has fallen by the wayside. And I think in short and in essence, people don't check in enough with themselves where they're at. It's just kind of like, sink or swim when it comes to modern dating, so to speak.
Yeah, and my experience too is the same, that, quite often women come to me and they're feeling quite needy and desperate and don't realise that that's exactly what they're exuding out to a prospective partner. And you know what? There's nothing so heavy that weighs on a man's shoulders as a woman's expectations, and that isn't going to be conducive for intimacy or attraction.
You know, you're so right about expectations, and I see it across the board, with both genders, really, about expectations. And one thing I'd say about managing them is, if you've got a list of 10 million things, or even 10, it doesn't matter how many, in your mind of what it is that you'd like in a partner, write them all down and physically look at them, and take a look at yourself in the mirror, and see that list, whether it's just 6 things or 6 pages long. And I have seen one list a few years ago, and a lady had written 6 pages worth of expectations around around dating, and how one should conduct a date, let alone the relationship. And the expectations were lengthy. And it was the idea of, look, take your list and look in the mirror, and why don't you highlight the things that you are, and why don't you cross off the things that you are not? Because if you're thinking that there are all these things in your life that you're not quite bringing to the table, but you'd like somebody else to do so, it feels to me, and I guess to other experts out there, that you're looking for someone to bring what you aren't actualizing yet. And so when you're actualized in those areas, one of the things was 6 languages, I think, and the idea was, well, if Hugh Grant stood in front of you, which was pretty much the physicality of the kind of person she was looking to meet, and if he couldn't speak 6 languages, would you eradicate him as a dating prospect, or would you date him? Well, the answer was, I would absolutely date him. It's like, well, why is that on your list? If it's not necessary, but you think somehow you resonate someone being able to speak 6 languages as this absolute academic, intellectual person using, all different sides of their brain, that's wonderful. But if you're not also speaking 6 languages, then how can you expect someone else to bring that to the table? It doesn't seem fair or equal, and surely you're looking to attract your equal.
Yeah, I get it, and I hear a lot of what you're saying as the pains and problems of what's being exuded out there. And also, I'd add to that and say that you might have things on your list that would be a definite deal breaker, like you may not want somebody who's a smoker, for example, or who's a drinker. But still, I would say be flexible around that, because I can remember when I met my beloved partner 10 years ago now, and he was a drinker, and I literally, I suppose, I'd had in my, not on an actual written list, but, in my mind, that it'd be a deal breaker. I didn't want to be with somebody who was a drinker. But what happened in the early weeks of that relationship was that, I did express, ideally, I didn't want to really be with somebody who was a drinker, because I was very conscious of wanting to live a long, healthy life and wanting somebody to share that long, healthy life with me. And you know what? He stopped drinking. Within 6 weeks. He had made that decision that he didn't want to drink anymore. But I didn't sort of force that on him and say, this is a deal breaker, you must stop drinking. I just expressed, what I wanted. And, and that's what transpired.
And I guess that comes down to really clear boundaries and communication around, if you've created an idea around something that you want, and you can back it up with your theory and your logic around it, and if that really resonates with the person you're communicating it to, and they take it on board, they're actively listening and saying, hey, actually, in this case, Lyn is right, and actually I want the same. And sometimes you just need somebody to bring something out communicatively to show it up in your life. And I think my partner is massively emotionally intelligent, and I find myself to be really lucky in that aspect. I was saying to somebody yesterday how at the end of every year, and I don't know why I'm telling you this, but as it's a conversation, I'm just going to overshare as always.
Great stuff.
At the end of every year, I sit and I vision board everything that I want to take a few days out, and I vision board my business, how I want to help people connect, I vision board what I want for my lifestyle, my fitness, my life in general, my routine. And I really get clear on the next year ahead, because I like to see focus and feel that I have a physical aim that I can see in my home office. I don't take it to work with me, of course. I've got vision boards everywhere. And my partner said to me, wouldn't it be really great if we had a vision board for us, as in our relationship as a separate entity, not just what do you want for your life, which includes me, but a vision board for us where we're on the same track. And I thought that was so beautiful, because I'm a good communicator, I do believe, and he is also a really good communicator. And I think from the get-go that was a deal breaker for me, because I'm very expressive emotionally. I'm a deep thinker, and I think I needed the same. And I think once you really get to grips with who you are, I guess is what I'm saying, and what you need to tick along, that aren't just things on the surface, you really attract the right person for you. And it sounds like you did 10 years ago now, Lyn. How amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose what I'm saying is, you might have things on your list which you think might be a deal breaker, but also, as I said, for me, I needed to be flexible around that. And I absolutely was, hearing you when you said it's important for people to sit and understand how they feel with a person, because, and I think especially this is true for women, we're not so much driven by looks as men are. Men are more visual creatures. Women are more driven by how a man makes her feel. So if this man is making you feel great, but hasn't necessarily ticked off one of the possible deal breakers, give him a chance and just express, not making it a criticism about him, but like I did about what I want, in a man, in any relationship, not necessarily making it about him, but in a partner in general. And it actually transpired that he was prepared to do that for me.
Amazing. And I was just thinking then, as you were talking about what we're looking for, what deal breakers are, and back to what you said earlier about what are the sticking points and the problems that people are seeing in the world of modern dating. Well, a lot of women that chat with me and come to me are talking about rejection. They go on a date, and if they start to kind of like someone they're not sure, and that date doesn't work out, he doesn't feel the same, a lot of people are then fearful to go out again. It puts them at a sticking point, and they feel like, oh my gosh, I've given somebody a chance, it didn't work out. So I was thinking just then around the fluidity around expectations, and everybody has the right to choose. And isn't it amazing that we live in this world, well, most of us do, where you can make choices for yourself. And the fact that somebody has chosen that this isn't right for them, well, it's not that person was the right person for you and they've passed you by. They have opened the door and not wasted your time to give you the opportunity to go out there and meet your right person and the right partner for you. Every date that has been ventured that didn't work out, I just see it as people out there, singles out there, navigating this path to partnering. They're just arriving one step closer to exactly where they are supposed to be, which means meeting the right person. I think if we can eradicate these massive lists of expectations that aren't really to the core who we are, and if we can also eradicate fears around being rejected and just see it as a date that was ventured, that was an experience and not quite right, I think we could learn so much more about ourselves and be more positive in the process for partnering, if that makes sense to you, Lyn.
It absolutely makes sense, and I agree with you around, I think one of the main things that you hear regularly is this fear and this word rejection, and how best to handle that. And it's about changing your perspective around the word rejection, not feeling it and seeing it as rejection, but feeling and seeing it as feedback,
Yes.
and viewing it as feedback that that relationship wasn't the right relationship for whatever reason, it wasn't about you. It's just about giving you the opportunity now to see somebody who's going to be a better, more perfect fit for you. So my view on anything, whether it's people, whether it's the right job, whether it's the right opportunity in life, I always think if not them or that, then I'm due something better. So, actually view any sort of perceived rejection as, you know what, that person saved me a whole heck of time, by making it clear that they are not worth pursuing. Thank you very much. I'm grateful for that. Now I'm closer to attracting the one that is a great match.
It's so true. And I love what you say about switching up one's perspective around that, perceived heavy word rejection, because I always say rejection is just redirection. And you and I are, again, on the same page about that. And I think if we can just shake up and I'm a big fan of failure, and I say that all of the time because, we often see things that don't work out as failure, but actually we're just fearful of failure as in that date was the end goal and that's the final destination. Actually, no, that is just a hurdle that you had to come over, just to test, just an experience to get you one step closer, to build you into a more resilient person, to get you to where you are supposed to be. And I think, the more we can see rejection as redirection, the more we will just keep going for anything that we want, especially around our ideas of attracting a partner.
Yeah. And I think another key thing is to understand that, feel absolutely comfortable with who you are, know that you are worthy, you are of high value, and affirm that for yourself, because the more you can affirm to yourself that you are worthy, you are enough, and you are high value and you're a prize catch, the more you're then likely to attract somebody that's going to appreciate all those qualities within you. Whereas if you're entering into the dating scene feeling unworthy, needing, desperate, fearful, afraid of rejection, then even if you do attract somebody, they are probably not going to necessarily have a healthy relationship with that sort of person, because you're already entering it, with those negative mindsets, and it's probably not going to be a great relationship on the back of that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And before, when you were saying be, totally comfortable with yourself, I agree with that. And I also would take it one step further and say be comfortable with yourself, but step out of your comfort zone at the same time within your environment. I mean, if you're doing the same things that you always do, you're going to get the same results. So you need to step out of what is comfortable whilst feeling 100% comfortable in your own skin and in oneself. And then you'll grow, you'll learn, you'll gain new experiences. And the likelihood is that you'll feel a greater sense of achievement, and if it's there for you, actualization in the journey to partnering for you. And gosh, how amazing does it feel to learn new things, meet new people that you connect with. And so, be 100% comfortable with yourself, and also be mindful to continue to step out of your comfort zone at the same time.
And that's exactly how we learn and grow, isn't it? By stepping out of our comfort zone. Change will not happen. Positive change will not happen if we're not prepared, to step a little bit out of our comfort zone and experience new things. And talking about new things, Sarah, I'd love to know more about the events that you hold, and how often, and what that looks like for people that might be interested.
Well, I host different events across the UK with a company called My Friend Charlie, but also I am the co-founder of Staycations, which is the concept of a low pressure weekend. So people, stick with me on this, where you have fun, you eat lots of food, it's run by myself and Charlie, and we also invite different dating experts from across the UK to join us on panels throughout the weekend. So singles that are attending are A, serious about partnering, they B, are welcoming self-development, and C, they're really keen to have a heck of a lot of fun. Because modern dating, when we get into our own heads and we don't get out of our comfort zones, can become a bit of an experience that feels like trudging through mud. So I just think, it's all included: food, accommodation, activities such as flying American bald eagles, archery, clay pigeon shooting, yoga, meditation. We have a whole cohort of activities to keep singles chatting and busy and learning something new, and coordinated, hopefully. And then, on a Friday night, we get to grips with answering the questions that are anonymously put to us. Either they're emailed in before the people arrive, or they are put into a wine bucket, as it was last time, and different experts from across the UK pull out a question and we answer it, and more often than not. So that's a low pressure way to get everything you want out of the weekend answered, as well as meeting singles who are in your age group, on your wavelength, and we physically speak to or meet the people that inquire beforehand before they place their booking. It's not just about people being able to have the disposable income to come for a weekend. We really want to know that everyone is on the same wavelength. Everyone has a kind, open-minded nature, because we're really mindful that when you invest time and energy, that's a really big ask in this really busy world where we keep ourselves so connected, with our jobs and online, to do the bold thing and get offline, and not just for an evening, which is bold enough, but we're asking for massive bravery for people to come for a weekend. And we launched in the summer, and we got one wonderful, happy couple from it, who just authentically connected throughout the weekend, really got to know each other over that extended period of time. And everybody that came along, they're now on WhatsApp groups. They go to, throughout the summer, they were going to different barbecues. They've been going to cocktail making masterclasses together. They've been doing all sorts of stuff. And it's a real testimony to the fact that they invited us hosts to be in their friendship circle, their digital groups and whatnot, because they want to keep us included in what's going on to them. And that, to me, aside from the happy couple, is the whole mission: to get people not only connecting but making friends. Because as an adult, it is no longer as easy as it used to be to make friends anymore, because we're all so stuck in our iPhones and whatever. And, so the idea is around connection, and if romantic connection comes from that, absolutely, that's amazing. And yes, so it's called the Staycation. It's in the UK. Our next one is probably too soon for this podcast. It's on the 29th of November to the 1st of December, and then the next one will probably be next summer. Other than that, I have a radio show called Love Lessons on Women's Radio, and I do coaching for single professionals looking to attract love. That's it in a nutshell, really.
Excellent. Well, I'll make sure all that information is included in our show notes as well for our audience, Sarah. So thank you very much for sharing that. And I love the idea of what you're doing. It's an absolutely brilliant idea in today's world of, just as I say, most of us thinking that the way to do things is to meet on screen. So I love that you're providing, alternative solutions for our singles out there. And not only that, but, even if you, like you said before, you don't meet somebody to go on a date with, you are actually gaining new experiences and learning new activities and creating new memories for yourself. And through those, you might decide then to continue after the event, investing in those sorts of hobbies or activities and meet somebody that way. Who knows?
And, if you think about the time that, people spend with coaches and experts for an hour or two, however often or frequent that is, having a whole weekend surrounded by different dating experts and relationship experts, you singles or attendees that come can really tap into that information and knowledge. And having walked away from that weekend, they've not only gained a cohort of new friends, but they've also walked away feeling far more equipped to navigate modern dating. And, you know, it's all included on our next weekend, which is, you know, on the 29th. I've already got an afternoon booked of people that want to sit down and have chit chats with me around things that they feel could be holding them back. And, you know, that's what it's there for. It's a fun weekend hosted by experts who really have good intentions at heart. So, yeah, I'm delighted to have been on your show. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome, Sarah. And for those listeners that are going to be listening to this podcast live, which will be going out next week, the dates that Sarah mentioned there, the 29th of November, would be for 2019. So that if anybody is listening on a replay in the future, then we are sort of making that clear. So if you want to look for any future events, then obviously we'll make sure the contact information is included in the show notes for people to look at when the next one's on.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for sharing your great wisdom, insights and information about your events, Sarah. That's been really great. I've thoroughly enjoyed that.
Amazing. Appreciate having been on your show. It's lovely.
And on that note, listeners, as I always end our podcast with, you know what? True love starts with opening our hearts. So let's do that. And let's do that in real life, in real live, off air, away from screens situations from now on. Good night for now.
Thanks for listening to the Hearts Entwined podcast. You can follow Lyn via the Facebook group Two Hearts Entwined, or search Lyn Smith, inspirational speaker, at LinkedIn, or email lyn@hearts-entwined.com. That's LYN@hearts-entwined.com. Remember, true love starts with opening our hearts.